Welcome to the Morse Code Podcast, where we go deep with the most inspiring musicians, artists, and writers out there working today. My name is Korby, and I'm hoping these conversations inspire you to push deeper into your own work, whether you're a full-time professional or just starting out on your own creative odyssey. Just a quick note to thank everyone who packed out the house at the 5 Spot in Nashville last weekend for the launch of my new single, Meet Me at the End of the World. I had a fantastic time playing with my band, and that experience of sharing music live in a room with my friends and with my strangers, man, it's just deepened my commitment to live events and my conviction that getting people together as human beings, it is the answer to so many of our problems. Am I naive? I don't know. Let me know in the chat. I feel like I'm very early on in my journey of bringing a little humanity to what is this increasingly mechanistic culture. This Morse Code Podcast is an important part of that effort. And, I've had so many amazing conversations with people. Some I've known, some I didn't know at all until the mics were on. And I've realized over time that a prerequisite to having a conversation with somebody is that you have to relinquish some sense of control. You don't know what's going to happen. And it's in that gap, that uncertainty, that the sparks really can fly. So thank you for being here for that. I do hope these conversations inspire you, and I plan on having 1,000 more of them with the most creative and inspiring artists I can find. Personally, I'm putting a ton of music out this year, starting with my new song, Meet Me at the End of the World. That song comes out March 18th, which is like right around the corner. So if you don't mind, please pre-save it on Spotify. You can do that by heading over to my Instagram. I'm Korby with the K. And you can click the link in the bio. That would be super chill. I'm really excited for my guest this week. This guest right here, a man of my own tribe, the wandering, hard-touring, folk-singing troubadour, Jordie Lane. Jordie is from Australia, as you'll shortly be able to tell, but he spends a lot of time over here in Nashville, and more specifically East Nashville. He actually lives just a few blocks away from me. A funny story, I was running last spring on my route that I always take, the same route every time, so that you don't have to make decisions about direction. You can just go into your head and find out what's rattling around in there. And I was running, and I ran right into Jordie. He and I frequent this joint called the Urban Cowboy here in East Nashville, and he was walking out of there, and I was running past, and I came over and said hi to him, and that conversation led to me directing his music video for one of the songs on his last record. That song was called The Changing Weather, and man, you should check it out. I'm really proud of that video, and it has mostly to do with Jordie and his partner Claire, who produced the shit out of the song, and I just showed up with a camera and then edited it. The hardest word in the English language to say is edited, past tense. That song, The Changing Weather, is part of his record, Tropical Depression. And that record came out last year. It debuted as #1 in the country department in Australia. And among its many accolades, it was called Astounding and Undeniably Authentic by Rolling Stone. In this conversation, we get into what inspired the songs that became the record and how songwriting happens for Jordie. It's always different for everybody. And that subject alone of how you get into a song is just worth the existence of the podcast, because it just always helps you to find a new way, hear a new way. And maybe you can find that way once again for yourself. Jordie is one of the most sensitive and genuine artists I know. He and his partner, Claire Reynolds, are two of the hardest working people in the game. So I hope you get a lot out of this conversation, and I'm really excited to present it to you. Here is my conversation with Jordie Lane. Jordie Lane, once again, it's great to see you, man.
Great to see you too.
Thanks for making a little time.
Yeah,
coming all this way, all of, I think, 3 blocks, one half of a world and 3 blocks.
I mean, I'd like to pretend. I did just fly back from Australia, so Yeah.
Wow. You got the accent to prove it.
Yeah.
That was a dad joke. I'm a new dad. I do jokes like that now. It's part of my repertoire. Dude, I'm so excited to talk to you. Congratulations on from the outside banner year. I feel like the reception of The Changing Weather has been fantastic.
Yeah.
By outward appearances. And part of the thing I want to talk to you about is the contrast between outward appearances and inward reality. And we kind of got into this a little bit because I was fortunate to help you produce and film the video for that song.
Yeah.
And in the kind of days and weeks running up to that, we talked a lot about what's going on in that song. And I mean, you and Claire knocked it out of the park with the visuals and the set pieces. And maybe that's a decent way to get into this conversation is to kind of just talk about the concept behind that album and maybe that song.
Yeah. Well, as you know, from like, we just ran into each other on the street corner when I was like in a whirlwind of like, oh my God, I've got to get this first single done and get a music video. And it was just all serendipitous. And so a lot of the actual concept for that music video was just like running on fumes, basically, like coffee and like, got to get this done. And so, but the whole concept of the record is sort of where external forces, being severe weather, meets up with internal kind of extreme weather as a metaphor. Anyway, it's like, so we had the tornado in 2020 and
in East Nashville, there was like a historic tornado
and that
spring
was
of 2020.
Unreal for my partner Claire and I, and we were fostering a dog at the time. And I mean, ultimately it was an experience that bonded us with the greater community, and just to watch everybody cleaning the place up together, it was incredible. But what it started, it kind of sowed a seed of like major anxiety inside me, which I've always been an anxious person, but it kind of ramped up to the point where it started to make me realize there was a lot going on inside me. So
just to interrupt for a second, because I remember you telling me about that. And my question is like, you said it kind of happened, not immediately. The tornado happens. You're like, oh, holy shit. We've never experienced anything like that. They don't grow those things in Australia. But then it was like in the weeks and months later that you were kind of noticing something a new anxiety. And then how did that manifest itself? Yeah.
I mean, obviously that, first year of the pandemic was new and strange and wonderful in some ways, and terrible.
We might interject that the pandemic started about 3 weeks after the tornado hit. So it was a double whammy.
It was a wild time. And so I think while we're in it, you're just sort of running on adrenaline and isn't this exciting, trying to survive. And I think that's what I've realized I've always done is like, I think it made me just seeing external extreme weather events made me realize that I have this anxiety, reoccurring nightmares of that stuff all the time going on in my head. So it made me realize that that's not normal, or that's not something I want to live with forever. And that just started getting more and more extreme over the sort of year after that. And it eventually got to the point where I just kind of obviously wore myself out with the stress and the anxiety and like picturing things falling apart and, basically like an apocalyptic nightmare. And I wore myself out to the point of like a kind of physically debilitating depression. And once I couldn't get off the couch anymore, that was when I finally acknowledged that I need some external help. I used to be able to survive on the anxiety, and use that as like a fuel, like an energy, basically.
Can relate.
And I mean, because the difference between like fear and excitement is really just the context of the way you're thinking about.
Yeah, well said. And do you think that part of that was like your inability to travel? Because there's something about traveling and like constantly seeing new things, and also just like the logistics of having to be on time in such a place and negotiate a train or an airplane ticket. Like there's so much in the traveling troubadour lifestyle, which you've been, I mean, you're coming on 15 plus years of this, right?
Yeah.
That sort of demands a lot of constant immediacy and presence. And in absence of that, it seems like a lot of stuff that you could easily kind of literally be running away from, that's no longer possible.
Yeah.
It's like sitting on the couch with you.
Yeah.
Do you think that's fair?
I like that is exactly what it is. And I think everybody probably gets to a stage in their life where if there's unresolved things or things that are building up inside them, eventually you have to deal with it.
So how did you deal with it?
Well, I wrote an album about it, and then I decided that I was going to openly talk about it as well. Like, you know, I literally told the publicist, you know, say that this is about mental health issues and that it's about me working through that. And then the irony is, like, everyone who's interviewed me so far, like, sidesteps that. Like, either they're like,
not today, my friend.
Either they're like, that's not cool, or they're like a bit stigmatized by it. Like,
yeah,
they're like,
uncomfortable with the realness.
I don't really want to ask you. And I actually felt really kind of disappointed in that, because I wanted to, you know, I'm still working through, I'm in it right now still. And that was the purpose of it, to kind of make me accountable to keep working on myself. And so the fact that I didn't get to talk to anyone about it was a bit like, oh my God, is everyone still worried about talking about mental health? Or, yeah.
Do you mean like professionally?
No, I mean like
or with friends, or?
I mean, when people interviewed me about my album,
like the official
record
capacity stuff.
Yeah. They just wanted to talk about the pedal steel or the, I mean, the pedal steel is amazing on the record, but
without a doubt. But it isn't. Yeah, it's much safer territory to mine than how's Jordie feeling? Like, how are you really doing? No, they're not like, you're not on ABC. I don't know what would be a big station in Australia?
Yeah, we do have one called ABC.
That's what I thought. And like, you're not sitting down with the DJ like unpacking some child trauma.
No, because it's not snappy and good for radio.
Yeah. Which I feel like is one of the reasons why culture, like, I think, this is my 2 cents, one of the positive things that's happening in a society where a lot of negative things are happening is that there's this amazing thirst on part of everybody for something authentic. And I think that's part of the rise of the podcast space, is because it's like, ironically, it's like I feel like our attention spans are polarizing. It's either like a 4-second TikTok or a 3-hour podcast.
Yeah.
This isn't going to go 3 hours, but you know, something with a little speed. Yeah, let's not rule anything out. But yeah, you know what I mean? It's like people want to talk about something real, and it's like, it's so exhausting to be shiny and dancey all the time, and when you don't feel like it. And this like pretense that we all maintain in like polite society is exhausting. I feel like everyone's exhausted. And I think part of the reason for your record and your decision to like just make it part of, you know, like not pretend it's not there, is I don't know, something like answering in yourself of just like, I got to be real here. Yeah.
I mean, there is a slight, not a contradiction, but where I love to play in the make-believe, definitely in the way the songs are presented, like part of it is escapism. So there's a lot of that still there. And I mean, a lot of people are also trying to say they're being authentic because that's the trend now. Everyone's meant to be on social media exposing their flaws, and
which is also exhausting.
And I definitely now cringe at a lot of it, and some of it's just me being cynical in a bad mood that day, or being jealous or envious of this social media influencer, whatever. But I do see a lot of it where it is also a facade, an act to be authentic. And so I definitely
That's a great point.
Yeah. I really worried about telling my publicist and trying to make the mental health thing a talking point, because in my own head, I'm like, oh, no. Everyone's going to think it's like this facade of trying to be authentic. Mm. And so I psyched myself out of it so many times. And like, I had the record sitting on my own shelf like I was a bad record label that I didn't even have, like not letting it out there. But, you know, finally I was like, to move on with my life, I need to put this out there and start talking about it.
So how long after you had the finished, okay, let's just quick timeline here. You wrote the record 2020 roughly.
It was sort of mid 2021. So I had about a year of sort of processing things, and, you know, a lot of it was about being far away from home and being nostalgic about my childhood, thinking back to all of these memories that I didn't realize I had because I was just too drunk, basically, and starting to like try and be
a child. Yeah, that's tough.
They get you started early in Australia.
The rumors are true.
Wine at the dinner table. No, I just mean like in my kind of late teens, early 20s, there was a lot of stuff I forgot, and then sitting in this empty space that I got off my landlord, it was like there was nothing to shield me from eventually my own memories and demons and stuff like that starting to come through the walls and talk to me. So
was the...
But sorry, I didn't tell you the timeline.
No, please do. Yeah, and I keep
really
thinking
remember.
Of stuff, and then, straighten me out.
It was like, through the end of 2021, and then I had this kind of like phone tag relationship with like one of my idol producers, Mitchell Froome, who a friend introduced on email, and he wasn't doing anything at the time. So he started giving me advice and listening to my songs and helping me edit them and really work through stuff. And then it wasn't until beginning of 2022 that we started tracking with the band. Mm-hmm. And that was still beginning of like, we had to be COVID free to get back to Australia straight after the recording. So it was like hugely stressful. I was like militant with the band, like here's a COVID test to do every day before you show up at the studio. And we pretty much were all in high quality masks the whole time. So it was really weird. And I was joking to the engineer, should I just sing? I'll sing through the mask and we'll just put a little extra top end on. And he was like, no, that's not going to. But it was stressful, but at the same time, everyone really kind of focused in and just did an amazing job. And then it took over another year for me to actually tinker with it, get it mixed, sit on it, ditch songs, then bring them back. And then finally my partner, Claire, started shopping it to record labels, on another bout of sitting on the couch. I just wasn't moving, and so she did it without even telling me, and then found this label back in Australia who really wanted to put it out, and then
here we are.
Here we are, finally, middle of, August 2024 that we released it. Yeah.
Quick nuts and bolts question. Did you how did you pay for the record initially? Did you do a Kickstarter?
This is very confronting questions.
No. We want another truth. Damn it.
So,
and then I had the other half of it is like, did you sell it back to the company or whatever? It also, anything you don't want to answer is fine as well.
I'm just trying to remember back. I had some money saved up. My parents chipped in a bit. And we ultimately, after talking to Mitchell Froome, who's like an old school producer, and he said, it's going to cost a lot of money to make it with him. And he basically said, don't do it with me. Save your money, find a good engineer. And it was through a good friend, one of my oldest friends here in Nashville, Jeremy Fetzer, who played guitar on the record. He said, there's this friend, John Estes, got his own studio. He plays every instrument and we'll grabbed this guy, John Radford, on drums, who I'd seen and heard of many times. And then Jeremy's other good friend, Spencer Cullum, on pedal steel, who had played on a record with me years ago. Anyway, they all did it, and we did it in a very affordable way, and it turned out great. Yeah.
I feel like a theme of this conversation thus far is kind of like a dance around charging into yourself and your art, and then struggling to get out of your own way. Do you feel like that is an accurate thing? And I think of this, maybe just to give it a little bit, flesh it out a bit more, like you make the record and then you don't know what to do with it, and you're plagued with doubt, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it. I think it's only now, even after I put out the record, or in this last year, like starting to do therapy and getting on some meds and all these things that I was so far from ever wanting to go near for years, just out of that kind of pride and that stigma of like, if I need outside help, then there's something wrong with me. I'm not strong enough to work this out on my own, like some people are, or whatever. And
there's also like some kind of stigma, to use your word from earlier, about maybe, I don't know if it's a man thing, or you just keep it to yourself. Like that's the way I would I'm still that way. I hate
think
talking about my own.
What it is I always downgrade things as to not as bad as somebody else, not as bad as your problems. So I'm,
which there's something healthy about that too, in a way.
I'm like, be grateful for what I got, and nothing's that bad for me, so I shouldn't worry about it. But what happens is, as well with conversations, I just go around in a circle until I get lost, including your question. But I think
it's great.
I think I'm back to it, which
great company with one another.
Was like getting in your own way. I always know exactly what I want to do. It's just I've realized that I have these major up times where I'm out there and confident, running into you in the street and writing a whole concept for a music video, the 2 days before we actually filmed it, and having no sense of doubt whatsoever and just loving it. And then I'll have periods of extreme lows where I doubt absolutely everything and I feel terrible about myself. And so, I'm just starting to realize that those things are going to happen. I'm just trying to learn how to not let either of them get
out of
control.
So, I mean, it's interesting because that day,
basically, like for music nerds, I'm trying to get the right ratio and level of compression. Just shave off those tops a little and bring
up the bottoms.
Bring those bottoms up so it's just a little more
even across the board. I just wanted to say that day in the studio with you and Claire was so fun for me also, because it felt really alive, and also because we only had so many hours in that space, so we were just like having to fly, and we didn't have time to be precious or really go too hard. And I felt like you guys trusted me, and that was empowering, and I really was down with the vision 1,000%. I mean, I was just like, let's go. And there's something cathartic about that. And I'm just talking about sort of, from my end, because I feel all the same things I think a lot of artists do. This tension between feeling a high of an exhilarated moment of just charging into something and having no doubt. That's a great way of putting it. And then just like hours, days, weeks, months of total self-doubt, paralysis, inability to move forward, moving forward and then moving backwards, retreating back to the familiar, even though you said you wouldn't, even though you don't even like the familiar, like all of those things. And I think one of the through lines of this podcast, even though I talk to all kinds of different people, is that is such a common occurrence for creatives, no matter the discipline. And maybe I have a question too about this. This is something I'm thinking about a lot as a new dad. And by the way, I just wanted to say that I just got shat on for the first time ever by my daughter.
Hey.
Today was at the doctor's office.
Congratulations.
There's a terrible moment when you're changing a diaper where the old one is off and the new one is not on. So there's some kind of metaphor there.
Wow.
I call it the danger zone, because you get it, baby, all clean, it's ready, and then you're like, and in that moment, she just might get you. And she never had until, it's like, the tails of my shirt are still wet. Anyway,
So is that why you're into these two-tone mustard brown?
Yeah, exactly. Hide a multitude of sins, my friend. Just don't get too close.
That's your thing now.
Yeah, that's why I'm in an audio space here. Anyway, just the being a new dad thing, and just like the desire to provide a positive experience for this innocent person, is so strong in me.
Yep.
And then with that is this unpleasant thing that comes up of just like my own childhood. That's sort of, because you can only compare it to what you knew. You know?
Yeah.
And then there's another like unpleasant thing of just like how I was raised, good, bad, whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's one piece of it. And then the other piece of it is just like, I, have been a professional. It's hard for me to even say it out loud, which is its own level of fucked upness, just to put it flatly. I've been called to like the arts and music and devoting my time to it. And I had some like early proficiency as I could sing, and I just really loved music and I could do it. And so that's like a clue from the universe. But in hindsight, I've just realized that was so connected and interwoven with this damage and this like need to feel loved and be recognized and accepted.
Yeah.
And I've made a whole career out of trying to be loved, and how screwed up that is, I mean, and then there's this other fear of it. And this is, I'm setting this up because I want to get your perspective on it or see if you relate to it at all. But that well, what if I heal and I don't need to feel, I don't give this onus of providing me love to all of these other people who don't even know me or even care about me. And I don't need that anymore. Well, then will I be an artist? Is this like, do I have anything to say but my own like bellow of pain?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, can you relate to that, or is that
completely?
Scary to you?
Yeah, completely. I think for years and years, I sort of felt like a fraud and, imposter in terms of being an artist, because I'm like, I think of the great artists as going through great adversity or, real fucked up times. And I'm like, I've just had a blessed life, good childhood, love my parents, haven't had any addiction or gambling problems, or, haven't wound up in jail or whatever. Like, so I'm like, what do I have to sing about? What do I, and I think actually since doing therapy, because they help you realize, that you don't have to keep cutting yourself down and downplaying what you've been through. It's all relative. And I'm like, oh, there's actually plenty of fucked up shit that's happened. So I actually don't need to look for more trouble.
Yeah, you're covered.
And then I also realized that I actually only really create art and music when I'm in a good headspace. But I always go back and draw upon some of those screwed up times, or just like, I think I definitely am like you in that I've always, even when I write a song and it's really happy and joyous, I always still put a little, but what if it falls apart? I don't know if I've ever been able to write like a love song that is just straight up happy.
Yeah.
I'm always like, well, it's good now, but something might screw up. But just to finish that point is that I've realized that being healthy and getting yourself to a good place, doesn't mean that you won't be able to draw upon all of those experiences you had in the past. Like, that doesn't get taken away. So I don't think I'm scared about moving towards being in a peaceful, happy state. Like I would like to do that. But I still relate to you in like, why the hell do we need to get on stage or get our music out there and want that love from everybody so much?
Yeah, there's this great quote from Leonard Berstein in this is a paraphrase of it, but he's like, we as artists work our souls to the bone in order for one note to follow another. And really at the bottom, this is probably no more noble or complicated than a newborn baby's cry for attention. And I think there's like, I mean, if it were like a hater saying that, I would be like dismissed. But, one such as Leonard Berstein would take it a little bit more seriously. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I was listening this morning to this podcast or something, some snippet on YouTube, like when I'm doing my graphic design edits for this podcast. I just like listen to stuff. And it was about Dostoyevsky, which I'm a fan of, the great Russian writer. And one of his, he had this idea from a young age of this terrible and necessary connection between his own pain and, artistic greatness. And, fortunately or unfortunately for him, he had some real terror. He was arrested, and by the Tsar, he was taken out and under a mock execution. He thought with his comrades that they were going to be killed by gunfire, and then they were pardoned at the very last second. Wow. And and then after that, he was still sent to prison for a very long time, and suffered a lot. And but his contention was that you can't make art unless you are both very sensitive and in great pain. And that's a really uncomfortable thing to like face head on. I think, and so then I'm hopeful in some messed up way that I too want to heal, because I don't want to put on my kid my stuff, right? So that's my like why.
Yeah.
I think prior to that, I mean, getting married was maybe one, I wanted to have a happy marriage. I really did. And so there's some like, okay, you got to figure some shit out here.
Yeah.
But then now the stakes are even higher. And so there's this desire to heal. And then I have this hope that I'll still have something to say, because I kind of am a sensitive person, and I am like very restless. And I don't imagine just like suddenly just, I don't know, moving into a cul-de-sac of life and like popping a beer every night at 5 and hanging out at the bar and watching baseball all day. Although that sounds fantastic.
They all sound
that sounds wonderful. But somehow I don't think I'll be able to do that. So maybe we'll be okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
So are you taking a break from tour after being out and about, and or are you in the middle of it?
No, I've just finished a tour. I've gone back to Australia, I think 3 or 4 times in the last 6 months. So that's been a lot. And then touring around the US, I've loved it. But I've got a few months off and working on composing for a TV show that this is the 2nd season of it now. So
that's exciting.
Yeah.
That's a different kind of work too, right? Because it's...
I really love that.
Yeah.
Because, and I think that's still stuff I got to deal with, my own ego and stuff, where this is not just for me. It's not about me. The music is there to serve the story of the visuals and dialogue you're seeing on TV. And I love working for somebody else. Probably because I need structure, deadlines to actually get anything done. And when I set the deadlines myself, I always know, they're malleable. I can shift it and delay it. So working for somebody else, having a deadline and getting a paycheck, for once I feel like someone in the real world. And so that part of it's great. And then just, trying to be creative and create the music that helps a story on the screen move along. It's like, feels like a magical thing to be part of. So
I mean, it's kind of, it seems like striking a wonderful balance between gainful employment, but not disappearing into that world indefinitely. It's like a clear end, right? It's an assignment, 3 months or whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, there was a point during the pandemic where both myself and my partner Claire sort of pivoted to doing that work, and we made quite a bit for like commercial stuff, advertising and whatever we could do. We did some short films, and obviously some of those you're barely getting paid anything or whatever, but it was a way to still be creative and make some money when we couldn't tour. And I think in the end I would love to kind of balance those things out, be like making my own records and touring like half of the year and then composing for the screen the other half, because it feels satisfying, and it means that I can like sleep in my own bed and not be eating trash kind of food on the road. And I mean, there's still nothing for me like the excitement of making it on that flight or getting in the tour van and making it to the show. And it's just got, that also has such a clear deadline. I got to make it to the venue.
Load-in's at 5.
We've got to do that show and do our job as good as we can, even if there's only the bar person and the sound person watching us, and I just, it's a real romantic idea to me to be out there on the road. So I'll never stop doing that, but
that's good to hear. I'm like, I'm looking into my own heart and being like, do I share Jordie's continued enthusiasm? I think that I think I have a few more parameters than I did when I was younger, where I really just did not care. I was just like, that was the best feeling. Bartender and nobody else, fine. Tomorrow night's a new night. But it is. I know I'm a little older than you, I think, and I noticed, or sometime around 40, I was just like, it's starting to feel like a young man's game here. If I'm going to get on this plane, I need to know there's a guarantee on it. Because it is hard on you, like you said earlier. Traveling is no joke.
I mean, probably up until 5 years ago, I was still always, I didn't have a fixed address. I wasn't paying regular rent or utilities or paying off a car or whatever. And so it really only has been the last 5 years of my life where I've had to step up and pay those bills and sort of be in the real world in terms of that. And so it does mean a lot more where, if we go on tour, that budget,
there are
I can't be losing money every time. But like, God forbid anybody ever ask me advice, but once in a while some kid will. And one of my, I think, soundest pieces of advice is just like, keep your overhead low, because low overhead equals freedom. And if you're the kind of person, and this isn't everybody, I noticed this too along the way, that's like, people make art for all different kinds of reasons. Sometimes people just want to be famous, or sometimes they just want to actually make money and write songs that like are on the radio. And I always assumed when I started out that like everybody wanted to be an artist who wrote and played their own songs. That was to me what the game was. And only when I moved to Nashville, I realized, oh no, there's all kinds of varieties of that. But if you're one of those who wants to play your own songs, have your name on the records and live and die on your own thing, then that is the hardest. I think that's the hardest way to go, and the most fraught, and the least financially stable. And the only way that you can sustain that is to just keep your rent cheap, keep your band tight, or play solo, until you can afford not to. But I think that the second you get stuff around you that, monthly payments of any kind, that just adds up. That's a noose around your neck, and you're going to have to make a compromise eventually. Well, no, I restrain from having those monthly payments, rent or whatever.
That's why I bring it up, because I can tell you're one of my kind.
And I've always done that, kept the overheads low. I started out playing solo, and probably more than 50% of my shows still are solo.
Sure.
And I got comfortable at doing that, and there's something on stage anyway for me that there's a pure sense of freedom. It's just a play between, like my bandmates are the audience, basically, and I push and pull with the audience in terms of like making up songs about them on the spot, or, that idea of in-between song banter is probably the most exciting thing for me, because it's the spontaneous, improvised song, basically. The actual songs I'm playing, I've played 1,000 times or whatever. So I love that. And when I've got the whole band, I love playing with them, but I also want to play all the songs with them rather than be telling a 10-minute story between every song.
Man, I can relate to that so hard. And for those two exact reasons, like the solo thing, same. Like lots of, okay, let me say this. This is going to post after the event, but I'm playing a full band show in February, and it's like I'm releasing new music after a hiatus, and I'm excited and a little nervous. And one of the reasons I'm nervous is because of the full band thing, which is really fun, but I have developed a career out of like my between song banter and like how I do it, and that you really can't do that the same way with the band.
I think you can. I think I've always pulled back from doing my usual who knows what's going to happen in between the song thing, because I'm worried that the band will get bored or I'm not getting my money's worth, and they only end up playing 3 songs. And but I think finding the right bandmates that you feel comfortable with, and feeling comfortable in yourself, and hopefully not having too much of that chatter going on in your head, doubting yourself or whatever. I've just started to find a good balance with that now, and it is because, well, at least the band in Australia has been constant for the last 3 tours or whatever. So
that's got to feel good. That's a band.
It feels really good. And I mean, they're all super busy playing in a million bands. And so I don't know how session players manage to weave all of these different regular bands they play in. Like, that's magic to me, that they can play with all these different bands regularly and not have all of these clashes in their schedule. Anyway, I think that's magical.
It's called Google Calendar.
I think you invited me to this with a Google Calendar.
I sure did, yeah. No, I'm definitely, there's a lot of moving parts in my life right now, family and professional, and man, I live and die by that thing. And it's been very helpful, because one of my strategies for mental health, and given a career that has a lot of flexible time, is to be extremely deliberate with my time. And I think that the most vulnerable I get is when I am making a decision about something. And this is just unsolicited, this isn't advice or anything, this is just like how I've learned to stay alive, is to like, I try to minimize my decision making the day of, so that like when I wake up, I know what my day is going to look like. So like within reason, there's always some stuff and things get moved around, and like every single day things get moved around a little bit, but I'm not waking up and having breakfast going like, should I do this or should I do that? Should I write a song today or should I?
That's incredible.
Because I'll just spend all day, I'll make another bowl of cereal and I'll sit there and look out the window, and then I'll just like, I don't know, go to Urban Cowboy at 3:00 when they open.
I mean, and that's probably one of the biggest differences between the self-employed artist and somebody who is working for somebody else on their schedule, is being disciplined to be able to do that yourself. But just listening to you say that, I'm like, then where do you have the time to work out your schedule?
Yeah, before I go to, you just do it the day before. I go to, this is not, also full disclosure. I am not perfect at this. Like, when I'm firing on all cylinders, it happens under moments of intense pressure. Like, I'm kind of entering a new chapter of intense pressure because the daughter, and B, I'm starting to put out new music, and I'm like, learning how to do it now because it's all different.
Yeah.
And I'm like going in hard on, like, I'm just going to put out one song and I'm going to do it a release as best I understand how to do that with one song. And I'm not really going to tour, but we're making a video for it and everything's leading up. And it's just like, I don't have time to deal with that. I don't have enough time to deal with it. So consequently, I just have to. And so like, I mean, I have a calendar set up and I'm like, we're going through it whenever, like I'll be sitting there and my daughter's taking a nap and my wife's helping me do this. She's my Claire. We're sitting in the nursery, Zuzu's asleep, and we're on the calendar working backwards. Okay, the release is here. That means the da-da-da-da-da. And so it's just like everything is constant deadlines, and like even this podcast is it's every single week, Thursday morning, fucking episode's going out. It doesn't matter. And if I don't have time, like last night, I didn't have time. We had like crazy, Zuzu wouldn't go to sleep and other stuff came up and I didn't have time to do I write these long, I can't sustain this, by the way. It's too much writing for each episode and I've got to like figure out how to rein this in. But anyway, didn't have time, but the episode's got to hit by 8:00. And so I woke up at 3 and I just like came down here with a cup of coffee and just cranked it out, and it's just like, there is, at the end of the day, there is like zero possibility that I will not make the deadline. And I know that in advance. So
that's awesome.
That makes it like, there's not even a decision. It's just like, okay, well, given the fact that you're not going to miss this deadline, what do you need to do to hit it?
Yeah.
And then I just, the emotion, once the emotion's gone too, then that's helpful. Like otherwise I could feel sorry for myself or something like that, but it's like, there's no time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Again, that's why I love having a gig to do, people have bought a ticket, and you have to get on stage pretty much on time and do the job. And then same with doing this composing. Like I really love that, but I'm going to try and work on the schedule the night before thing.
It's helpful even if you don't follow it. Even if you it's already dissolved by 11.
Yeah.
At least, I don't know, there's something about waking up in the morning and not having to decide what to do. It's that. It's like that first, because like I do all my most creative work, we were talking about this earlier, but like super early in the morning. And that's because that's the only time I have to do it. And so it's critical for me to not, when I wake up, I've got to have that like total Zen state of can't think about whatever the bullshit in the inbox. And in order to have that possibility, I have to know that what I'm doing from 4 to 6. So also like I just have a set routine every single morning that is fairly hallowed. I don't, now it's all messed up because my rude daughter is like waking up at all hours of the night.
Yeah,
but that's all fine. It's like life is so chaotic right now, and I'm just like, I don't know. It's not going to last forever. And she's so cute.
It's amazing.
So
I think you're doing amazing. The biggest thing for me that actually made me accountable, and actually the reason why I looked into medication, was getting a sheltered dog who ended up having really bad anxiety himself. And we ended up seeing a dog psychiatrist.
Wow.
I know everybody can laugh at this, but and they definitely do back in Australia.
It's not a big industry back there.
No, but they call it a behaviorist. And he got prescribed like the same medication somebody with anxiety or depression would here. And it's been life-changing for him and for us, because like he's now able to go on a walk without extreme terror and reacting to every single thing. It would be like a plastic bag moving in the distance or things like that. And so having to get out of bed for him, like I know you can't compare it to a human child, but a dog that isn't potty trained and things like that, it was great for me. Had to get out of bed, get him out the back. And now still it's like, give him his medicine when we wake up, give him his little breakfast, take him on a walk. So I have that. And then beyond that, the rest of my day, I just have a massive rest of my life list.
Yeah.
That I avoid until that point where like the video has to go out.
Yeah.
And then I just cram.
It is so hard to prioritize. It is so hard. I mean, I'm right there with you. I feel like I just made it sound like I have some semblance of knowledge about what's going on. I truly don't.
I think
But I think you do have to like, you have to just do it like I have, here's like the paper version of my list. And
have we got through it? Is that your to-do list today, or what?
No. This is like my version. This is my endless list. But the thing is that I do is I have this list. I have two pads.
That's not a long list. That's pretty good. So that's for the rest.
There's another one.
Oh, okay.
So there's like, but they're the same size, and there's two pieces of paper. And every night, or when I'm working when the girl's sleeping and it's all right, I look at this list and I go, what's the most important thing of this list? And they're like, maybe, like that's doable, whatever. Given everything, what's the most important one? And I write that at the top. And then, because the list is constantly getting shuffled up and jumbled and then added to, and then new priorities are coming to displace the old priorities. But if I can have a moment of peace apart from the action and the decision making, where I can just like sit in this other part of my brain where I'm like, what are my long-term goals as I best understand them? I never say this in like a sentence in my head, but this is the feeling. And then I can just like write the one thing at the top. And then then I don't have to go like when it's time to do something, I just go and do what it says.
Yeah.
And in fact, like for the podcast episodes, this has been hard fought, like over more than a year, because the podcast has so many things to it. Every episode has to come out that if I sit there, like I used to just have like a little Post-it note that had like 7 steps. And then, but it's like, I still was having to make decisions inside of those 7 steps about what to do. And like now it's like a 42 step thing for every episode.
Wow.
But it's actually easier because I just wake up and I just do the first thing. I don't think about it. I just go like, fuck, I'm already mad. I don't want to do it. I just want to go back to bed.
Yep.
But I just do it. And then I just go through but I'm not having to like waste all this and this crazy static energy, like going what's the next thing I should do? I just do what it says.
Yep.
It's like taking the freedom of choice away from myself at key moments has been helpful to me. Anyway, I didn't realize you were going to get.
Oh my God! Yeah,
so long.
I hope that's helpful to the people out there watching this podcast, or you've got great editing skills and we just cut all.
We just cut it all and save you all. We'll probably leave it in there. I don't know. You
give
just
the
fast forward.
viewers more time to write their own list. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we have a song that we might play. That's your song, and you might let me play on it. Let's do that.
I'd love to. Yeah.
And do you want to set that song up?
Yeah. Well, I thought this would be the best song to do in terms of this was the very first song I wrote for this project, and I had very intentional, and again, this is the first time I actually set out to write a new album, and I rented a space and it had no running water, no air conditioning. It was the middle of summer. So it was like not an ideal thing, but it was 4 empty rooms in a house. And I just got to go and sit in there with a guitar and a chair and a pencil and paper and try and write songs. And this was the very first one I wrote, and it started out just as an exercise, and it was in this empty house, and then it kind of turned into a sort of metaphor for me working through some pretty tough stuff and sort of coming out the other side. So that's what it is, and it's called Empty Room.
Let's do it.
Something about this, I can't feel nothing. Something about the way you sound. Something about my life that just don't seem clear. Something about it that I can't work out. I could move up here or go back down over there. I could catch my reflection in the wind. I could feel this space with everything I once loved, 'cause I wouldn't want to leave anyone out.
so real. Yeah, we just don't know how to make sense of it all. If this were my title track, I'd fill it with fiction. In fact, I'd be crumbling from the start. They're just so tall. In an empty room, nothing to weigh it down, no one to hold at night. Only the chamber in my mind. In an empty room, yes, those walls are still blue, singing back at me. Why do you try? Now the paint is dry, yet that smell is still here. I'll be getting high before too long. Yeah, tell me, empty room, what might have you seen before this all went so wrong? In an empty room, nothing to weigh it down, no one to hold at night. Only the chamber in my mind. In an empty room, yes, those walls are still blue, singing back at me. Why do you try? Why do you even try? Why do you even try?
Man, thank you so much. That was great song.
Oh man, beautiful.
I was
Beautiful
bragging on you
playing.
to Randa the last couple of days as I've been like living in Jordie Lane's world. Dude, I love your voice. You have a great singing voice.
Oh, thanks,
and,
man.
I wonder if you could talk about for a second, like what were the early indicators that for you, either external or internal, that made you want to go chase this life of music down? Like how old were you when you had a formative experience?
I mean, I know there's footage of me on like a television news program or something. My mum's a comedian back in Australia, and so she has done a lot of television over the years. There's footage of me playing a little marching drum when I'm about 2. So I know I was definitely into that then, but when I started primary school, which is like 5-6 years old, my dad was teaching ukulele at the school. So that was when I got into playing stringed instruments. And then it was 10 years old that me and friends started writing songs together and listening to Beatles and Jimi Hendrix, and then kind of came like Van Morrison and Dylan and then like the Byrds and Graham Parsons, and then Ryan Adams and Gillian Welch. And so it just kept going in that direction for me. And yeah, I mean, I'm still sort of trying to, I think I've found a voice, but you're always still working yourself out. So it does kind of ebb and flow.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that a lot of people from the outside are mystified with the songwriting process. Like, how do you write a song? And I myself, as somebody who's written a number of songs, am also mystified by the process. I don't really know how to do it. How do you feel about that?
Well, I finally, with this album, worked out a physical process for myself, which is totally simple. It's just take myself in, and pardon the pun with that song, but take myself into an empty space or an empty room that has nothing to do with me. Like, none of my physical baggage is there. And so then it feels like all of my emotional baggage is put to the side, and I just get to kind of sit and wait. And then eventually just some random fanciful story comes into my mind and I start writing, and then eventually that weaves in with truth and experiences that really truly are mine that I kind of weave together. So it's that truth and fiction that I put together, and it's because of that not having clutter around me that helps me write this. Like, now I know that I can go into any empty room and write a song. But I can't do the co-writing thing, or I haven't been good at it, because I just really have to go into my own world and not speak to a person for at least an hour.
I can really relate to that, and I never co-written a song until I moved to Nashville, like probably a lot of people.
Yeah.
To this day, it is a thing that I am terrified of and am like force myself to do, and then still cancel them. And I'm like back into like trying to get the guts up to ask some. I mean, all these weird things. And I think for me, it's similar because music comes out of some very individual place. And there's also something about me that's like, I don't want to say the wrong thing. Like there's performance anxiety even in the co-write. And then once I'm in it, I actually often have a fun time doing it. But the apprehension is really great. And so this is really actually super interesting to me. And I love the physical removal of physical baggage,
material
things that could bind you down. It reminds me, I think it was Maya Angelou. That's how she wrote poetry. She would check into a hotel and just write. John Prine, late great John Prine, I think his old last record at least was written at the Omni, maybe. Like Fiona's just like, dude, you need a record. Get over there. He's got boxes of lyrics. Just sort your shit out. So I think there's a lot to be said for that. And then, but as far as like the actual nuts and bolts of it, are you like sitting? Is it, maybe it's always different, but are you sitting there with a guitar in your hand or piano, sitting at a piano, kind of like? Do you have something in mind? Do you write around a riff? Like I usually write around a guitar riff that I'll play. Or how do you do it? If there is a way.
Now what I do since 2021 is just sit, like have an instrument, if it's a piano or a keyboard or a guitar or a ukulele, like banjo, any type of some sort of thing that I can make a sound on, and then just pencil and paper and maybe an eraser. Like I'm trying not to...
Flirting with an eraser. Okay.
I'm trying to not... back in Australia, we call it a rubber, but, I can't say that now.
Different connotation.
But I just now feel confident that if I just remove all physical material, then I can clear my mind and just sit there and wait. And then... so no riff in mind, no story in mind, because I just feel like then I'm pushing something that maybe doesn't want to be. I mean, sometimes there is a social or a political agenda to something but that usually floats into the song, but not purposefully.
So like while it's happening, it might float in.
And I think that's what I love about it, that it feels like magic. That and once I get into having that riff and the main hook and the concept, then I'll get very studious and start chipping away at editing or looking at other ways to say the same thing, and then editing the form of the song and all of that. But yeah, now I finally kind of trust the idea that if I just sit and wait, give myself the space to sit and wait, then something will come.
It's very profound to me. So it really is. And I think that it's like gets at the heart of what separates some kind of, there are a lot of creative people that produce nothing. And I think that one of the things that sets those who produce from those who don't is the ability to sit and wait. And I know that for myself, even though I have all these structures around those structures is so that there's that space so that I can just sit and wait. And I still have to, it's still a crazy discipline and I'm afraid to do it. And there's constant failure, all these really unpleasant things for me. But like, I guess I have written songs and they very similarly came out of just waiting, patience, and also some kind of diligence of like not quitting. This song that will have just come out, or maybe it's being in its pre-sale phase, depending on when this airs. It's called "Meet Me at the End of the World," and I wrote it by myself. And it actually came out of in 2022. I was doing once a month. I called it East Nashville Songwriting Workshop, where I'd have a friend come over and I'd have the camera set up, and we would just sit and write a song. Oh, cool. I've written several songs that way. My friend Angelou Lauer, Nora Jane Struthers, other folks. And this particular time, the scheduled writer texted me that morning, I think it was that morning, was just like, I can't make it. But I already scheduled it, and I can't, I'm not going to miss the deadline. So the show must go on. So I sat there and just like tried to write a song on the internet. And it was like, I don't think it's very good TV, but, but I was like trying to talk, out talk so that there was something to do. And I was also just like, it was really shitty and not fun. And then somewhere in there, it was probably like an hour in, I just had this "Meet Me at the End of the World." And I was just like, I like it. Whatever that is, you just need to find your way into the song. And there was just like, that was enough. Yeah. And I had this like little guitar-y thing that fell out from another attempt or whatever. And I was like, what about that? And it just like, there was like a clue. Yeah. And I just sat there over 3 hours probably and just like hammered it out, and I was like, at the end of this session, I was like, I like this song. Like, I think this is, and just to your point, to me, it was just like utter magic. Like, I don't even know, I couldn't duplicate it. Of course not. But just like what was going on in that space, no idea. Yeah. But that's it's really powerful. I don't know.
I do think that can happen with another person or a group of people in a co-write. You just have to practice doing that, and it's a different type of group connection. But I was thinking of that just then, of like doing it on my own. I think I do that because it is more about the process for me than the end result. Like, it's great if I've got a good song at the end and people like it on a record or a gig and it connects, but it's so much about me just spending time with myself to work through stuff that I love. And I think that's why I still haven't worked out how to do that with somebody else in the room, because I think I guess I just feel too self-indulgent. Or will they be okay? Imagine you going into a co-write and we're like, okay, we're just going to sit and wait. I mean, maybe that is what some people do, but I would just love that. And they're like, well, I'm doing 3 writes today. Yeah, totally. We've been sitting here for 2 hours. I've probably got 30 more minutes. Keep waiting.
I mean, if you have you sat down, have you tried to write a song before, co-write?
Yeah. And I have done it. And honestly, I just need more practice at it. Yeah. So maybe we can. Yeah, no, I would love that. Let's try to do it. Maybe we could even do, well, I'm not holding you fast to this. And this is like, you should film it.
I'm really extending myself here.
You should film both of us.
I'm terrified you'll just reject me.
Both of us just sitting us in an empty room, 2 hours live. And we're like, are you got anything? Are you ready? No.
Still waiting. Don't force it, man. Shh, you're ruining it. I will say that, like, I have written enough co-writes or done enough co-writes to have failed at many.
Yeah.
Like where you just, abandon ship halfway through. You're like, man, maybe today's not it. Let's try again some other time. You never see him again. And that hurt. It's like getting a little punch in the solar plexus because you are like, oh, I tried and it was not good and I feel bad and I don't want to try again.
Yep.
So, but then, I think my last one might have been that one where I wrote this Meet Me at the End of the World song, and I haven't tried to co-write since because I'm just like, what if they can't? Like, all this bullshit fear is so crazy.
Yeah.
We've got stuff to do. My man Jared, who's helming this thing, has got to travel, so we've got to go. But dude, this has been a fascinating conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing yourself with me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man.
It's really fun to have a long form conversation.
It can be done
because there's barely any other space out there that lets you have a long talk.
Yeah. Let's do it again soon.
Yeah. And lucky we're not talking more. If I have another coffee, I'm just going to be a mess.
I can't wait. I look forward to it.
Cheers.
Hey, thanks for watching. Go ahead and click here to like and subscribe. You can click right there to watch another video or click here to watch a playlist featuring songs of the Morse Code Podcast. Okay, thank you very much.